This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. Episode 257 of The Pass is here. What is up? What's good? I'm your host, BT. I am in improv mode today. I promised y'all I was going to do a live feed, so here we are. This is going to be a little different. So, well, I'm going to say it's going to be a little different, but it's going to be something that I'm trying out only because I do have my audio a little different because normally I got my Blue Yeti set up, but I had to go to making what I got work. So thanks, Mixed Emotions Pod. Thanks for tuning in. So I am doing this recording. You're going to hear me talking about my topics, and I'm also going to be checking Instagram. I'm trying out Instagram Live. This is the first time I'm doing an Instagram Live video for the podcast. Also, this is going to be a quick podcast only for constraints of time and preference. I'm going to work on a routine of getting a schedule in place for the shows. But for right now, this was the best option that I could get. So I was like, let's make it work and make it run. So we're not going to jump around or really mess with wasting too much time. Felicia, what's going on? So let's hop right in. Of course, starting off from the jump, we did have college football had started, so I'm going to run down a little bit of what's happened. The big matchup that everybody was waiting for that most of my sports feed was talking about was Florida playing Miami. Miami was the favorite, even though Florida had the higher ranking, but Florida played better. Clemson ran over Georgia Tech, which was no surprise there. And I mean, most of the games were kind of just your chill games. Of course, you had the Wisconsin blowout 49-0. No surprise there. Texas A&M beating Texas State. We didn't see our obvious blowout yet, which is I'm going to talk about, which should be today, which is, of course, your favorite Alabama getting into their blowout bag. I'm not sure who they're playing. They're playing New Mexico State. Should be a good game, but we'll see. And that's kind of your overall rundown of your games. Matches are about to start if they haven't already kicked off. So there was a question that came up, and I'm going to talk about it now before we go too far into the show. Is Michigan a favorite or has a good shot at making the playoffs? And I'm going to be 100% transparent. I don't see it, but hey, anything's possible. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Quick spin into the NFL. The NFL season is about 5 days away. I want to make sure I get that right because today is the 31st. The opening kickoff is on Thursday. So Thursday, that game will be going on. I have a couple of news transactions that just happened today, so I'm going to drop those in really, really, really quick. But we did finish out week 4 of preseason. Carolina, I'm just going to give their brief spin. They went 2-2. Shockingly, we beat Pittsburgh, which I was a little appalled by, but hey, you win some, you win some. So you value those wins, and I'm just going to value that win for what it's worth. The Falcons beat the Jags. That was their only win of the season. Jags went 0-4. A lot of teams you really didn't get to see much on display because they were holding back from to make sure no one got hurt for regular season. It was a coincidence. The Ravens went 4-0. They beat the Redskins 20-7. Big story that everybody's talking about is the Giants. Everyone likes this, the rookie quarterback. There's this big talk of whether he's going to be the starter. Still early. I don't know how projected we can be about him being the starter, but if I was a betting man, depending on how well Eli plays, is going to play into whether he gets the nod, whether Daniel Jones goes in or not. And that's just kind of the simplest or clean-cut way of putting it. Big story that hit that I think everyone is still kind of, I won't say starstruck, but blindsided by is that Andrew Luck actually decided to retire. And part of that is because father, and I'm gonna paraphrase a couple of things before I get too heavy with this topic. The Jay-Z deal occurred. Everyone was uncertain of what would transpire from that, whether it was beneficial for the game, whether it was beneficial for him. But as anybody who really understands football or understands people, they're going to make business decisions. And that was a business decision, bottom line. And that's just my quick fix hot take on that story. I'm going into, so returning back to the Andrew Luck story. Andrew Luck was sidelines for, I believe, their fourth game of the season. And I think I got the exactly, I'm going to assume you're referring to my last point about Jay. If so, just send me a thumbs up. But Andrew Luck decided to retire. Father Time is undefeated. And just mainly it was time. Like, he had a bunch of injuries. He really wasn't available to the team as he wanted to be. And when playing the sport or when playing or participating, it's hard to really give your all when your body, like you mentally can be ready to play, but physically can just not be with it. It's almost like the simple analogy of you going out on a date or you meeting someone and you're physically there to attend and participate in the date, but mentally you're just somewhere else. And we all have gone down that road. So that was kind of a paraphrasing of the story. But at 29 years old, Andrew Luck did decide to retire. Majority of his career, he was injured. He missed 9 games in 2015. He missed the entire 2017 season. He was working his way back from an ankle injury. Didn't appear on any of the preseason games. And the game that was the final game that was being played, as that game was playing out, once it had finished, he kind of made the announcement or talked to someone about, hey, I'm looking at retiring. And when he retired, or when that story broke, it was kind of like a shock or a whirlwind, but he kind of knew that it was his best interest and his best choice. So that's why he just kind of said, I'll walk away. It's no point in me trying to go out here and keep fighting to play if I know I'm not going to get the production out of myself that I would like to provide for the sake of the NFL. And there's questions and concerns as to whether he's going to come back to the league. If I was a blind, and I always say if I was a betting man, but if I was somebody who really wanted to make that case or make that claim of whether he's coming back or not, I think this is it. He looked defeated in the interview that he did in front of the media sources at that time. And just bottom line, it wasn't his time. Like, when you know it's time to hang it up, you just go ahead and say, look, I'm done. And you find your and it's no different with people who have regular everyday jobs. If we have a job, we work, we're in our place with that job, we value it, we do our best to come in and out of work. If we're not there, we're like, look, I'm physically here and I'm doing the job, but mentally this is not where I belong and I need to look for my next thing. And sometimes you have to do that for the sake of your own personal sanity. And I just could tell, from looking at the interview and just listening to him talking about it, he just seemed like he was there doing the job as best as he could, but he knew for a fact if he had stayed or played any longer, no telling if he would even been able to come back at full health. And it's an interesting theory because no one's pointed this out, but I've noticed it, and it was kind of ironic. Luck was number 1. RG3 was number 2. RG3 has not been at full strength in quite some time. And it was an ironic or an interesting scenario when the Redskins played the Ravens and they showed them shaking hands. And he's kind of looking at him like, bro, get out. Somebody posted or shared that in my sports group. So I definitely had to share and make a joke on that one. Since I did talk about there were some transactions that occurred, and some of these stories actually just broke before I even sat down and started to get into, hey, let's record the podcast. One, in this first one, is still kind of fresh and still not believable, but it happened. LaShawn McCoy will no longer be with the Buffalo Bills. He has been released. He was cut. He spent the last 4 seasons with the Bills. He spent he started his career with Philadelphia. He was expected to make $6 million in the final year of his contract. It's a weird situation for him because you know when a player is into it or invested, but you don't see the production. And it's also, I just don't think Buffalo wanted to pay that money. We're not going to talk about it on this show, and I'm not going to bring it up until something officially occurs. But Ezekiel Elliott is still kind of looking to get his paper with Dallas, and that's still in limbo. And that's kind of the best story. I didn't have that as a tab. I have that as a story only because it's a story, but it's not a story. So that's kind of my take on my point on that whole instance. Not too long after getting that article, another article hit, and Jadeveon Clowney was talking, or was kind of put out there. He was looking at getting traded, or he wanted to leave Houston. And we were like, okay, it's going to happen. They're going to get something in place soon, but there's nothing guaranteed or solid that's saying, okay, he's gone. Well, the Seahawks were the winners, or picked as the favorites to go ahead and pick him up. He did go to the Texans for 2 players and a draft pick. So he was traded for linebacker Jacob Martin and a 2020 third-round draft pick to go to the Texans. The Texans, they also sent Barkevious Mingo over as part of that trade. They initially had used the franchise tag with Clowney back in March, thinking that they could buy the team and the player time to negotiate an extension, which obviously didn't happen. Kept him out of free agency, but the two sides couldn't work out a deal, skipped the offseason conditioning program, and missed the deadline for an extension. The Texans then turned around and traded him. 26-year-old has been excellent. He was excellent last year. He had 47 tackles, 9 sacks, and a forced fumble, along with 3 fumble recoveries. In his 5-year career, he posted 205 tackles, 29 sacks, though injuries limited him to just 4 games in his rookie season and cost him 5 games in his second year. He's only missed 1 game the past 2 seasons, however, pairing with J.J. Watt to give the Texans one of the league's scariest front sevens. That's going to be tough to look at, too. Because now, where does that put J.J. Watt in trying to work to be a better D-line, too? Because both of them are, like, as a unit, nasty. But Clowney, I don't feel is going to be the same in my just observation of his gameplay and his style. But anything can happen. We've seen much worse. And that's kind of the nicest way of putting it. I don't know if I have this as one of my pastor messages, but I'm going to share this now. And this is something that I'm learning with podcasting as a whole, and also with media people in general. When we get information, we get part of the information. We don't get all of our information. And as consumers of information, we should be better with getting our information or getting our sources. Like, we'll get a story. Antonio Brown decides to not wear a helmet that is a conflict with the NFL. Okay, we don't like that he's doing that. I don't understand he's making a big deal. But did you read the article to see why he has an issue with the helmet, or what the conflict is between him and the NFL? Most cases, the answer is no. But we also know that can happen, where a person will make the decision to read the story but not really get the story. And that's normally what happens with a lot of instances or occurrences in sports. And I'm doing this show with no water, so y'all know I'm brave. This story broke at the beginning of the month, and because we've had guests on, we've had other stories occur, I've been delayed with life, and it hasn't really hit the news feed. I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. The NBA unveiled their all-decade team. And I'm going to try to not be too wordy with this part because y'all know if I get into basketball, we can go on and on for days. But they introduced the list, and there were, I would say for the three teams, they got it right. They just didn't put players on the right lineups, in my opinion. I feel like Wade and Kobe both should be higher. I would either make them first or second teams. That's just my personal opinion. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show. But we're gonna chip at this and we're gonna kind of break it down. So the first team, Steph Curry had no problem. Harden, not really a big problem there. LeBron, Durant, and Kawhi. I'm kind of on board. It's tough because Kawhi does have two. If you look at these players, Steph has 3, Durant has 3, LeBron has 4. 3. He has 3. Kawhi has 2. The only player out of this 5 that doesn't have a championship is Harden. But also Harden has accolades to back his theory or back up him being on this list. So I'm okay with it. Second team is when it gets fun. Second team, you have Chris Paul, all-stars there that are there, not really doing much on the championship side. I don't think any of the teams he played for even made the the champion, like the actual NBA finals. So that alone is a lot. Westbrook does have a finals appearance and, the MVP hardware. Anthony Davis, up and coming superstar, no problems for the most part. Blake Griffin and Carmelo is where I get concerned. Just gonna say it. Blake is a good player. Carmelo is a good player. Carmelo's made 3 All-NBAs. If we want to be technical, you got Kobe who made 4 All-NBAs. Wade made 8. Wade made 4 as well. And I need to understand how does the All-NBA breakdown go, because I don't think they say All-NBA referring to like first teams, like only first team. If you made first, second, or third and you got an All-NBA nod, that's telling. Because I want to say, let's see, LeBron got 10, Durant got 9, Steph and Harden have 6, Kawhi has 3. Kawhi's 3 came in the last 3 or 4 years. Not the year he got hurt or the year he was out after the injury, but just in that duration of him evolving into a superstar. So we got team 2 with Blake and Griffin. Team 3 or third team was where I was just like, okay, Wade, Kobe, Paul George, LaMarcus Aldridge, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis should be higher. I would say Wade and Kobe should be higher. Aldridge was a very one-off. This kind of almost turns into that neglect again of where's Damian Lillard? What reason do you not put him in this conversation other than you've left him off of NBA All-Star appearances? Because he has about 3 or 4 All-Star appearances. I think he even was one of the only players to win or participate in like the skills competition, the dunk competition, the 3-point contest, the rookie sophomore game, I think that year, and still playing All-Star game. I don't remember. But these were all of the players who were able to get into the all-decade team. So those are your 15 players. And they give all the accolades, stats, points, rebounds, assists, things of that sort. We have our official team now for the USA World Cup. We have Kemba Walker. Well, I'm just going to read it off the easy way because trying to read it through the Twitter names, I'll mess somebody's name up. We have Harrison Barnes, who was the 2016 gold medalist. You have Jaylen Brown, Joe Harris, Brook Lopez. I had to look when I realized they said Joe Harris. I was like, who is that? Joe Harris is a role player for the Brooklyn Nets. Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, Donovan Mitchell, who I think should get an All-Star nod in the next year or two. I'm saying it now on the show. I'm speaking it into existence. 2014 Gold Cup medalist Mason Plumlee, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Miles Turner, Kemba Walker, and Derek White. Derek White was a wild card too, because he's been in the league for a while, but we really haven't heard much from him, because not just because he's playing for San Antonio, but more or less because he's not, like, there are a lot of guys who backed out of the NBA setup this year, and I'm still trying to. They backed a lot of pro USA players backed out for various reasons and purposes, but then it affected the actual breakdown of what can we actually have a decent team go over to play in the World Cup. But you have some pretty good guys that can play. Brook Lopez is going to be somebody that I'm really looking forward to seeing, because he doesn't have much speed-wise to keep up with the international play, but you never know. Like I said, a lot of guys backed out this year. I think even Eric Gordon backed out. I know Westbrook. Most of your obvious ones. Paul George, you knew he wasn't going to play after his injury a few years ago. But that's your lineup. I'm just gonna say I'm looking forward to the team. I'm not making any early projections. If there's anyone on this team who I think can be a deadly 1-2 combination, right offhand, I would say Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell. Those two both can play. You say whatever you want, they can play. And obviously Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker, to earn the money that he earned going to Boston, he can play. But that's your USA roster, and that's kind of where we are with that. Kobe and Shaq prove to you why the media is undefeated. I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this story, but I'm going to still give it its proper nod and or attention, because it did happen. I'm trying to adjust my seat, but obviously that's not going to happen, and that's okay. Kobe was on a show. Okay, make sure my life right. Kobe was on a podcast or a platform where he was talking about something related to insurance. Conversation came up about Shaq, and the first question asked was kind of pointed out from Kobe, paraphrasing, as Shaq didn't put up his best effort or play at his best. He didn't give his best effort towards practice. And the truth is, Shaq was always going to do what he needed to do to play the game. He wasn't going to go out. He wasn't somebody you was expecting to see at every single practice, doing every single drill. Shaq did what he needed to do to stay in shape and to play the game. When it came, and for him, he's even said it before all of this conversation came about. I may not give you a whole lot before game or, after the game, but once I'm on the court, you go get Shaq. And we got Shaq. We got Shaq enough to get 4 rings, excuse me. I didn't mean to take one away from you. But it's, when this conversation came up, it was so interesting because it was very, 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 very random of them going back and forth about it. Let's see. I'm trying to see if they give the story. So basically, it was saying Kobe Bryant said he'd be the greatest all time. So the latest bout of verbal sparring began when Bryant was interviewed on stage by Patrick Bet-David at the PHP Agency convention in Las Vegas. When asked what would have happened if O'Neal had matched his work ethic, spoiler alert, no one matches Kobe's work ethic, Bryant had plenty to say. His response, he'd be the greatest of all time for sure. He'd be the first to tell you that. This guy was a force like I have never seen. It was crazy. A guy at that size, generally, guys at that size are a little timid and they don't want to be tall. They don't want to be big. Man, this dude he did not care. He was mean. He was nasty. He was competitive. He was vindictive. I wish he was in the gym. I would have had bleep 12 rings. So they felt like if they were playing together long enough and it had worked out, they would have earned 12 rings or won 12 rings in their time period. When an Instagram user posted a video, O'Neal could not hold himself back, apparently irked, especially by the insultation that he had cost Kobe Bryant extra hardware. So Shaq responds, "You would have had 12 if you passed the ball more, especially in the finals against the Pistons," O'Neal wrote regarding the Staples Center. Alluding to his statue outside the Staples Center. You don't get statues by not working hard. Then Bryant attempted to clear things up and said he had nothing but love for O'Neal. Then Shaq took a jab at new Lakers signing Dwight Howard. Then they laughed the whole thing off. And we all got our fix of Shaq Kobe drama for a while, and the sports world could return to normal again. I'm not going to read this story to its entirety, and I know this is kind of going against what I said, but I don't want to lengthen the message that doesn't need to be presented. The main thing here is Shaq and Kobe respected each other. If you go back and look at the Pistons-Lakers series, that series was evident because whenever Shaq got the ball, they were shutting him down immediately. When Kobe, they kind of almost played it as, we're going to let Kobe get everything. We're going to let him just knock buckets down left and right. Shaq ain't scoring, and they didn't let Shaq dominate. Even with the small lineup that they had, and I want to make sure I remember it because it was between one and two. I know Kobe got doubled a lot and got put into forced plays because you really look at it. Ben Wallace against Shaquille O'Neal, Rasheed Wallace against Shaquille O'Neal. I think Sheed was still on the team, but you look at those big man matchups. It was not as easy as it seemed trying to get them to play together in the way that they did. You go through the rest of the series, or go through their career. By this time, once they had lost that series, that was when everything kind of changed. And in hindsight of the media and the NBA, it wouldn't have been a hurt or harm if they stayed together or they separated or did whatever they decided to do, which is obviously it became Kobe retiring as a Laker and Shaq, traveling team to team, doing his best to be a key role player as well as a valued superstar to said teams. So I give that update and just saying it as it went as expected, but it was just interesting because there was so much push behind it that didn't need to be pushed. And that's kind of all I got. And I closed the article that I needed, but that's okay. We're going to get it right back. So those are all the stories I have for sports. And yes, I did do a 27-minute dissertation of sports. What's going on, Calvin? Welcome to the live feed. You just missed all the sports, but if you go back and look at it, it will be available. But now I'm getting into tech, so hopefully you'll enjoy what we're talking about. Again, a month late or beginning of the month, this all happened. What's up? At the beginning of the month, the Samsung Note was released. And I know people are always on me because they feel like I don't support Android, and that is not true. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I do. I really do support it. I'm just not a consumer because I've gone iPhone and I've gone Apple, so it's kind of just been what's stuck. There were two phones that came out, the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus. The phones do come packed with a very awesome battery, dynamic AMOLED displays, in-screen fingerprint sensors, wireless charging, 3 cameras on the back for regular wide angle and telephoto. The regular Note obviously The regular Note, which is bigger than the S10, is now the smaller device with a 6.3 inch screen. The Note 10 comes in at 6.8. And of course, our big factor and our most important thing is that dreaded bezel. The bezel on the Note 10 got it right. It's a very small circle, and it's a very, very simple convenience, because as with YouTube videos now, YouTube is adjusted to this. Because if you try to blow up a video and watch it in full screen, you're gonna get, that bezel, having the iPhone's bezel is a struggle versus the Android bezel, which is on this one, just that little small dot at the top. Still, it may be important for some to learn that the Note will not have a headphone jack. Not surprised. USB-C headphones will come included in the box. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know where my iPhone original headphones are because I don't use them very often. But USB-C headphones will come included in the box. However, the dongle, I always like to get mine because I literally bought a keychain just for it. They're doing the same thing as Apple, which is they're charging you for these $10. I think this one is $10. I'm going to give a suggestion to anyone who chooses to do so. If you feel that you are a person that has a preference, and my bad, I'm like jingling keys and you hear it in the podcast and on live. But if you feel the need to have that dongle, just pay the $10. That way, if you already are used to using wired devices, go for it. The S Pen has Bluetooth with gyroscope and an accelerometer. That's going to be big. The Note 10 is going to introduce 5G. You have the Galaxy Book S, the Under Armour Edition Galaxy Watch Active 2, and there's a commitment to the United Nations Global Goals. So these are all things that we kind of got from the Samsung Note 10 event that happened at the beginning of the year. I did watch a good amount of it, and it was a pretty good show. I mean, they gave you everything that you needed to know. We are probably about a week or two away from iPhone and their unveiling. Everyone has gotten prototypes. Some people said the phone's going to have 4 cameras. Some said 3. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 3 and call it a day. And speaking of Ezekiel, because I guess I was talking about it, looks like they're close to getting a deal in place. We're not going to talk about it on this show unless it happens to break in the middle of the show. Then we'll go into it. Bumble and Gen G form a all-women Fortnite team, and this is the first pro all-women Fortnite team. Women make up roughly 35% of the Fortnite players. They were not represented at the World Cup. Bumble, which is a women's first dating app, teamed up with esports organization Gen G in order to change that. They formed Team Bumble, and I didn't process it at the time, but it actually kind of works. So if any of you know Bumble is in there with the Tinders, the Hinges, the Plenty of Fishes, the Tagged, all of that, OkCupid, that whole group. Bumble is another one of those sites for dating, and I mean it is a women's first based program because most times it's not really females who are looking for guys, it's guys who are looking for women, or men who are looking for women. The lineup includes Kristen Kitty plays Vanasek, Madison, Tina Reyes, Carly, and Hannah. I'm just giving their actual names. I'm not going to give the actual, their government. I mean, it's in the article. Recruitment for the team is finished. There will be future players to be brought on as needed. And they just kind of give the introduction of them being brought into the esports community, which I am all for because the esports community is not a one-sided community. People need to really take heed to that. There are a lot of women or a lot of younger people who are gaming just as much as your everyday folks who get on and get into the sticks and get right into the shits. this is an outlet that I'm gonna say some of your bigger companies like 100 Thieves, Optic Gaming, Envy, they're gonna take note of this, and they're gonna find a way to implement a female, like an all girls team for esports. Like, in my opinion, and this is just my my personal statement. I feel like this may have been said before on the podcast. I wouldn't have an issue if a female team was a part of Gears, Call of Duty, Halo. They should be able to participate and play right along with the rest of them. But it's also that willingness to invite others into a community. Just like that's the big conflict now with Street Fighter, is that everyone plays Street Fighter, but everyone isn't inviting or open to Street Fighter. And when I say everyone, I'm referring to men don't invite women into that community, which is really weird because it's a balance of, you get to see, like, you get tips from, like, the women get tips from men and vice versa. Like, it's a open, flawless community for that. Ninja strikes again. And I don't remember the exact episode, and I'm horrible because normally I would have wrote down or typed out the exact episode that I talked about Ninja on the show before. But it's safe to say Ninja is not messing around. He just joined Mixer probably a couple of weeks ago. It was about a month and a half, give or take. But he is now signed to Adidas. He has secured a brand deal with Adidas, making him the first pro gamer ever to be signed by the brand. They mentioned that the deal is intended to show his commitment to gaming culture and supporting creators who show dedication to excelling in their field. Adidas said it will continue to find new ways to support the 2.3 billion gamers across the world. The company added that ultimately it is here to help athletes make a difference in the game, no matter what game they're playing. As for Ninja, the announcement comes only a few weeks after he ditched Amazon's Twitch streaming service for Microsoft's Mixer alternative, a move that came as a shock. He also now has his own toy line and reportedly gets paid $1 million to stream games such as Apex Legends. We obviously know his main go-to is Fortnite. Ninja had been seen wearing Adidas outfits recently at events, but not much was made of it until he teased a major reveal on his Twitter account, which featured a trippy video with an Adidas font in it. Adidas does currently sponsor various professional esports teams, but the deal with Ninja is significant because of the individual aspect of it. We'll see over time what comes of the partnership between the company and the notorious gaming streamer, whether that be gaming-inspired apparel, which they've already talked about. They've showed some mock-ups of his Ninja brand on Adidas apparel, which I think is great. And it's the timing. Everything is all about the timing right now. Like, if you can hit the wave while you can hit it, catch it and ride it. That's basically what he has done and is continuing to do. So props to him for getting that deal in place. And I'm wishing, I'm like anybody, you want to see him succeed, and I really hope that he succeeds with his brand in regards to that. Coming up on the home stretch, before I get into music sesh and ass of the week, we got a couple asses of the week, and I'm going to politely paraphrase, but still talk about what happened with them, because all of them are just like, wow, what were y'all thinking? Some new albums came out. Jeezy's new album dropped. Pusha put out some new music, so a couple of new singles. A lot of artists, and I don't like using this term, but since I've been listening to Joe's podcast and since I've been a fan of it being that way, it's been a lot of singles, a lot of loosies, a lot of 2-packs, a lot of get this little sprinkle of music and enjoy it, and if you don't, tough shit. And it's tough because I'm good with names in most cases. Her re-released her album, and it actually is the full album of everything that was in the Prelude, the Part 2, and those last couple of singles. Like 21 is on there, which I personally am a fan of 21. That was weird because I was singing 21 at work, which was just random. Devon Terrell has been bringing out quite a few new singles. No surprise there. Wale brought out his second part of his single, or his pack, BGM, which is Black Girl Magic. Rhapsody. Oh my God, I'm so slipping because I don't have my notebook, and usually I'm like on my thought process of artists. But Rhapsody, wow. Like, if you are a fan of artists who can actually rap, listen to Rhapsody's album. Just go back and listen to it. Missy Elliott brought out her EP, simple but concise EP. I did get a chance to listen to Summer Walker's single. It's not that bad. Jadena, check out Jadena, like, pretty dope album. I'm trying to think who else I've left off the map, because there were a lot of artists and a lot of albums that dropped. And find what you love. I always say it all the time. Spotify is my go-to. If you got Apple Music, if you got Tidal, I don't care. Just check out what's available and just play it. All right, paraphrasing, but we're going to coast through these last couple of stories. 50 Cent made a executive decision, as I would call it. He decided to remove Joe's version of their theme song called Big Rich Town from Power. First and foremost, let me go ahead and state now, and I will probably lose listeners for this. I have not watched Power. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of Power. I just never watched it. Haven't gone back to catch up or do it. Just not watching it. But they removed Joe's version and put Trey Songz, and it sounded completely different. I ended up listening to both sound versions, and people have their feelings and their thoughts towards it. Uproxx did post an article related to that, so if you want to check that out, by all means. Going into Asses of the Week. Wow, oh wow, is all I got to say, because these people are quite special. That is all I'm going to say. First up, man tries to rob a bank, but he got caught. How did he get caught, you ask? He left a note with not just his name, but his address. There's no way you can be that stupid, but it's possible, because when you're that stupid, that's how you make Ass of the Week. Read over the article, it'll explain what he did, and kind of give a brief breakdown of how logical he was in doing that. The teller gave Harrell $206 and called the police. The teller was shocked by the mistake, because the mistake was that he actually handed in the information with his name on it. But there's no such thing as a smart thief. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. A Brazilian gang leader was caught. Let's see. What's the name? Clavino de Silva had on an outfit that looked so horrible. And I don't have the video on this page, but basically they showed him being chained, like where he looks dressed as a woman, but he's actually a man, and it was a horrible attempt at dressing up. But he was doing it because he was trying to escape from prison. But he was claiming to be dressed as his 19-year-old daughter. All right, man, you got it. I'm just going, okay, got you. You was thinking it through. Very good. Third up on the list, Arkansas. We stayed from Alabama. We stayed from Florida. Let me make sure, because this one was obviously in Brazil. So there, we stayed a couple of a clean sheet on Florida for 4 Asses of the Week. That's shocking. Woman is drowning on the phone, and of all the things that the dispatcher decides to say, I don't know why you're freaking out. Not really the best way to be sympathetic when someone's really in need of positive words and uplifting messages during a time of distress. But of course, what do you expect? And so that story was broken down. She dialed 911 to beg for help, but Renault answered and returned that panic with mockery and contempt. And they kind of go over they actually have the full recording from the whole situation. Finally, and I thought I was going to be clean on not talking about them, but I guess I got to talk about Popeyes. I don't have to, but I'm going to. Popeyes, of course, everyone knew about the spicy chicken sandwich. The man sued Popeyes for running out of chicken sandwiches. Craig Barr is seeking $5,000 in damages. Popeyes announced Tuesday that the sandwich debuted will be sold out at all locations. He's representing himself, also said in court that documents he was hustled out of $25 by a friend of a man who allegedly claimed in a Craigslist advertisement that he worked at a Popeyes location and could get sandwiches the restaurant was hiding. First of all, why you think a store gonna hide sandwiches when they can make profit off of those sandwiches? That's number one. Number two, $25 for a sandwich, you tripping. You bugging. You are bugging. Barr, who's a resident, said he suffered rim and tire damage totaling $1,500 while driving from location to location and was humiliated when his friends laughed at him. So you want emotional distress and you want support, like you want that whole breakdown, emotional support, emotional distress, whatever. And this generated wars between, well, not wars, but they give a backstory of how Popeyes and Chick-fil-A were kind of going mano based on chicken, or the spicy chicken sandwich. Personally, I never had the one at Popeyes, but my personal choice, I do like the one that Chick-fil-A does. Haven't had it very often, but the times I've had it, I've been good to go. No complaints, no issues. I did not rush through that with the intent of trying to not get my room to remain reserved, but I'm also doing it because this was really a catch-up podcast since I have not recorded in a while, and plus I'm trying out the live. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the live. I did see some people come in and pop out, and I know it was kind of quick on the go, but I will work on doing these more often. If you do like it, leave feedback. I would appreciate it. My message that I'm going to pass along is find the thing that you love and do it. We have found ourselves, or we as people have a tendency to not do things because we're trying to figure it out. And the more time we spend figuring it out, the more time we spend missing what that thing is we really should be doing. It took me 12 years to finally realize that I have always enjoyed and valued being a web designer, or being a techie, or being into creating content. And it sucks, but it's better late than never. And that's the message that I want to leave with you all today. If you have that niche or have that thing you want to do it. Like, I've even put this as part of the intro and the outro. Whatever it is that you want to do it and do it well. Like, I really do mean that. And stop being, don't rely on others for stuff that you are capable of doing yourself. That's another thing. So just keep those things in mind. Be uplifting, be positive, be supportive. If somebody needs to be held accountable, make them accountable. Or if you need to be held accountable, get folks that are going to make you accountable. And until next time, the past signing out. Not using the Yeti today, but if you want to listen to previous episodes, you can go to Spreaker.com/Brate Podcast. And of course, somewhere on the page, it's pastpodcast.com. And I'm out. Peace. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.